Okay, help me out here. How is it possible that two people in the same social, listening to the same music, can have completely different experiences? One positive and one negative. Well, let's find out. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of ZoukNerds. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing how two people can have such a completely different experience listening to the same social in the same place. But better, how can you avoid going through that? And how can you dance with anybody, anytime, to every single type of music out there and have a great time? So, let's go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Alisson Sandi, and we have our beautiful co-host once again, Prada. Hello, Gui.
Hello again, my people. Let's talk.
Today, we're going to be talking about something that has stirred some feathers in our ZoukNerds group on Facebook, which is the music of the socials. And not just once. This has been an ongoing theme so many times. So we're here to share our own experience and also maybe some tips to help you have a better time in the social. Let's just put this thought on the table. How is it possible that two people can have completely, and we're not saying like mild, but completely different experiences in the same social at the same time with the same music, right?
Yeah.
So, especially in larger events. So for some context, a couple of weeks ago, I organized an event in Germany, the Brazuki Germany, for the first time. And in my modest opinion, I think we had amazing DJs. We did a lot of research, and I actually never been to an event that I have organized or anybody organized that all of the DJs felt so together. It was like all of the DJs were playing through the same vibe the entire weekend, that it was kind of like hard to know who was playing. There's benefits and there's downsides to it, of course. But we did get some feedback in our survey from some attendees that were there at the same time during the same DJ. And one said that the music was way too low the whole night, pretty much. And the other said that the music was way too high and way too much energy. So like, how is that possible? And how can we ourselves as dancers deal with that if that's really the case of how we feel? It's hard. I think one of the things that we need to always understand is like how we can dance this dance to almost any type of music. And naturally we have our own preferences. So I think like putting that aside, what else can we do? To me, what I teach my students and what I do teach and I tell myself most of the times, it's kind of like, okay, maybe this is not exactly the vibe that I was looking for when I was coming to the social. Kind of like setting up a certain expectation of like, oh my God, tonight I'm going to have all the super fun, amazing dances. And then I get there and my expectation is not being met. So then I go like, okay, hang on, let me find a switch here inside of me and connect with the music in a different way. You know, because to me, music is so rich and there's so many layers to the same song. I just try to find that energy that I want to connect in that music. For example, at one point, I really didn't enjoy dancing to traditional music at the very beginnings. Very, very beginnings. I don't know, maybe because I was like much younger and I just wanted to dance to, you know, like more hype music. But then when I started like shifting and learning different ways to connect with the music, it completely shifted my mindset. And I didn't see traditional music as this music with just like one beat the whole time. How about you, Guy? I know that you, for example, love traditional music.
Yes, I do.
Like, how does that work for you in the other way to go to a social where there's barely traditional music?
It used to be really hard. It used to be really difficult. There's a story that I like to tell people. In 2017 was the first time that I went to a Zouk Congress abroad. Was my first time going to a Zouk Congress at all. And I went to Poland to the Warsaw Zouk Congress in 2017. I wasn't teaching yet. So all my Brazilian Zouk experience was dancing in Rio, basically the whole time. And dancing in Rio, not in the Zouk socials, not in the Zouk socials per se as much, but in the socials that had all the styles. And Zouk was like 2 or 3 songs. And these 2 or 3 songs were often the ones that people like the most, the ones that people know the most. They're often the traditional stuff. Or
Like the
some of
anthems.
the anthems. Exactly. Or some of the stuff from the really famous DJs at the time. And then I remember being there where one room was dedicated to slow music. So basically more lyrical, slow stuff. And the other room was the music with a beat, but a different sound, sounded more electronic. And I remember that I think in that weekend I might have danced with 4 people for like a couple songs for the entire 3 days because I couldn't connect to the music at all. And that was the beginning of a long journey to adapt, to train my ears, to train how I perceive this music because I was taught Brazilian Zouk at first with the traditional music, mostly Ghetto Zouk and Zouk Love. That was a lot of what we would listen to. And it was presented to me at that time as a rich kind of music. So you would, in class, not only hear the beat, we would hear the little piano, we would hear the vocals and stuff, which is really interesting because I started seeing later when I came here to the US as traditional music as beat heavy music. And that's true because the beat is practically there the whole time. But I had a hard time seeing it because from a very early stage in my dancing, my Brazilian Zouk training, dancing, learning, it was presented as a rich music. So I was just like, again, as they were seeing the traditional with this eye of a beat heavy song, I was seeing all the other songs that I didn't like in a very particular point of view, my point of view of someone who's not yet fully immersed in this new kind of music. So I needed to go there and also find the richness in these other songs that I initially didn't like. So it was a process, man. It was a little bit of a process. Traditional music is still my preference in the sense of if I'm feeling with the energy low, tired at the social, about to leave, the way you keep me there, you just play one of the anthems and some energy will go back to my body and I will keep dancing. That's true always all the time. So so it's just to say that although I cannot say that it's what I initially think I always gonna prefer, subconsciously it's something that when it happens, when the song plays, my body comes alive. So I think that's an indication of preference. I think maybe, but that's what happens with me. So I needed to re-educate myself to like the super lyrical stuff where it's mostly voice and piano or violins, and like the ones that are more dubsteppy, heavy electronic sounds. And these ones to this day, if there's three, like 4 in a row, I get tired because of how intense it
Take
is.
a break.
I take a break because of how intense it is. So yeah, that has been my journey.
To
Very
me,
summarized.
to me, the transition happened through the dance more than because of the music. I find that I wasn't enjoying beat heavy traditional music because my dance was not matching with that type of music. So there was a period in Brazilian Zouk, maybe almost a decade, that a lot of the head movements, a lot of the combinations and the patterns, they didn't really follow the traditional beat and the traditional footwork all the time. Because I think it was a period of like, well, if you do footwork all the time, you're dancing lambada. And for Brazilian Zouk, we stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. You know, that's a whole deep dive on another episode. But
Oh, yes.
during that time, it was more like I was training and I was social dancing more to pop music, remix music, even though the remix music did have like traditional Zouk beat, it was on and off. It wasn't constantly. So when a DJ would play music for too long with constant beat the whole time and no breaks, it was almost like too tiresome. It was like, oh my God, I need breaks in the music, or I need breaks in the music to create breaks in my dance. So to me, I had to learn and study how to navigate through the layers of the music. And I had to then also learn more layers to my own dance and to my own expression that would allow me to go there. Because it's not like, oh, just learn a couple of movements that you can do, but it's more like learn how my body moves in that vibe, in that kind of energy flow, because it's different, you know? So to me, it was really a combination of opening my ears and understanding that the responsibility was on me to do the work, to study more the music, to study more the movements in my body, and to study more the dance. So then I could also dance to that style of music. To me, you want me to be excited and to be super nerdy about it, just present a challenge. So once I saw that as a challenge, I'm like, okay, it's on. You know, now I need to do this. Now I need to learn it. I'm going to study the hell out of it. So
Man,
how was it for you to then do that transition after Warsaw Zouk Festival?
I will tell you in a second. I wanted to comment on two things you mentioned that memories came back very immediately as soon as you talked about it. The first one is the tiredness of when something keeps going for a long time. I watched this really interesting video on YouTube that was explaining, it was talking about the theory behind doing soundtrack for movies. And there is an idea that if you want to create a sensation of anxiety in those who are watching, or if you want to create a sensation of restlessness, or of tiredness, or of sleepiness, you play repetitive sounds. So you keep playing the repetitive side, and then they gave several examples in the movie Jaw. There's like the dun 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 dun, dun. Like it keeps going the dun 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 to give you anxiety. Then they showed this other movie about one of the queens of England. While there's all these things happening, and he played this keep like this very scratchy continuous sound. And then he was showing examples of ones to make you anxious, the ones to make you tired. And then I realized the very skilled DJs are the ones that when people are on the verge of getting in this state of tiredness, because it's repetitive, not the repetitive sound, but it's in a continuum of the vibe that it might start to get repetitive, they change. And then you feel your body sort of like, oh God, there's almost like a sensation of relief. And I felt that so intensely in one of the last socials I was. DJ very skilled. When I was about to get tired because we were playing more of the mellow stuff, we were going through the mellow vibe, mellow vibe. When I was about to get tired of it, he skillfully switched and went to a different vibe. And then I felt energy coming back into my body with the same partner. I was with the same partner, and then so that was one thing that I remembered. This movie explained a lot to me why at certain point of the social I would feel sort of mentally tired, not necessarily physically tired, but a different kind of tiredness. And I think it was because something was getting repetitive, no?
Yeah, I love this kind of DJs and I hate this kind of DJs because sometimes I'm tired and I need a break or I need water and I need to go to the bathroom and they
That's true.
keep like putting fuel to the fire and I'm like, bro, like let
No.
me get out of the floor for a moment. Like
And the
stop being
worst
that
thing,
good.
is that they know and they look at you and
Oh yeah.
smile because they
Oh yeah.
know that they got you. They got you, they got you by they got you by their heart. They're holding your heart like this. I have it in my hands right here,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Oh
And the
man.
other things that you said that I found amazing is the thing that the dance that you had was not conducive for you to express yourself in the traditional music. And
Yeah.
then I remembered my experience with samba de gafieira. In my first years training samba de gafieira, we would only dance to samba canção, like that slower stuff, really more
Mhm.
calm and things. So when I went for the first time to a social that played fast samba, I simply couldn't dance. My legs simply could not move that fast. And then I said, I don't like fast samba. It was not that I didn't
Exactly.
like fast samba. I just couldn't move that way. So after I learned how to move, after I worked on my dexterity on my legs, man, I love. There's a band called Copa Sete
Mhm.
that plays a lot of fast stuff. There's like a lot of their famous, a lot of the anthems from Copa Sete are fast
Yeah.
music.
Like crazy
And I
fast.
love that stuff, man. Yeah. So that's a good point. When I started to learn more about my own movements, my own groove, I started enjoying dancing to R&B a lot more because I have now tools to enjoy R&B. So I think that might be the great takeaway from this entire episode. That this idea that
Okay, let's go home.
let's go home. Let's finish here, guys. 20 minutes. Thank you very much. That was the shortest one. And I think that that's actually the greatest takeaway because sometimes one of the elements that might be silently preventing you from finding that joy in music, it might be because your body or your training didn't take you yet to a point of versatility or variety of movements that allows you to enjoy that kind of music, you know?
Absolutely. Something that I discovered growing up and becoming, I guess, older and wiser, that a lot of the times what we say we don't like is just because we're not good at. A lot of the
Slap.
times. Like, oh, I don't like this kind of music. I don't like this kind of music or movement. Or like, oh, they're just going to do a workshop in this. I don't like that stuff. Sure,
Mhm.
there are things that we don't like. But something that I heard from a friend very recently really kind of like gave me a slap on the face, which was, look, imagine that there's thousands of people that like that. So just open your heart and open your mindset to understand that there is something beautiful, amazing, and rewarding about that. Don't just think that it's bad. It's just that you haven't found the beauty in it. I was like, okay, where do I go and cry now? 'Cause that
Yeah,
was painful.
because it might be it's culturally distant from your culture. It might be you didn't grow up listening to that. And when I say grow up, I mean grow up as a dancer, listening to it. One thing that we were discussing one point in time was how much the music that you used to listen when you started, or the music that used to be mainstream when you started, how much that tends to become your preference. I have been talking with the people who started learning Brazilian Zouk in 2017, 18, where the chill reigned supreme, né? Where the chill was the thing that people wanted and liked it. And it was a lot easier to find in the socials entire sections that were like very chill, calm music. And the point of our conversations is how much they miss it, how much they would like to have that back, those longer moments in the social that is more calm. And some of them said that that's their favorite. That's their favorite music. Yeah. And my favorite music tends to be the traditional. That's what I started dancing with, I started learning with. That was the mainstream at the time. So I think there's also this big influence of what was on when you started,
Oh
and
yeah.
observing that. Yeah, observing that can be very powerful.
Monkey see, monkey do. A lot of the times we don't even have a choice. Our teachers teach our taste. Maybe your
Exactly.
teacher always played that kind of music and naturally you grew fond of that music. And then you go to a congress or an event that is not playing a similar vibe. And you instantly think, oh, the social is crap. I don't like the DJ and so on and so forth, instead of like opening up and educating yourself more, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I think that too. And there is one other aspect that is important. I think it ties to what you said before, Alison, about the feedback that you read from Brazuki, Germany. Two people in the same room had very completely different experiences.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking about my current state in my social dancing experience and states before, where I see this as a battery. We have a battery of not only energy, but also a battery of openness. At times, you wake up, there's a social on that night, you wake up super well, you are very excited for the social, and then you go with this whatever comes, I'm going to enjoy life because there are four elements now. I see there are four elements. There is you, your partner, the music, and the space. So at times, all the three other elements, if the music is not very good, there's this other three that are like helping your experience. The space is nice. The people you're dancing with, super nice. You are at a good place. At times, though, that doesn't happen that way. So you are not, very energized. The people that you normally like to dance with, it's not there, or the space, whatever. Your battery is not so full. You will tend to rely on the music that you like to find some solace, to find some joy, to find some calm. I have had that so many times in which I would go to a social hoping that the song would be the thing that would lift me up. And then at times it worked. The music really did lift me up, especially because I knew the DJ that I was going to play, and I know that they have a tendency to play the kind of music that I like. So it was almost like a certainty that that would lift me up because other elements were down, other things were down. So also keeping that in mind that sometimes you are open for all kinds of music that come and you enjoy life, and sometimes not, and that's perfectly okay. And then if you're not enjoying the social because the music that is playing is not the music that you like, is okay too. You are not in a place to enjoy all the things. So I think combined with everything we mentioned about getting your body, getting your movements, getting your technique ready to be able to express itself in all these different genres is one thing. And the other thing is also keeping in mind how you are feeling in any given moment in a social, because I can today notice when my battery depletes. In the same social, the same social, enjoy life, all music is amazing, everybody's amazing, all things are good, but then depletes. When you get that notification on the telephone when you have 20% battery left, I
And then
get
you
the
just close it.
exactly. My body sends me that notification 20% left, and I can physically feel that if I keep going, or the music that was not affecting me, it starts to affect. There's all those signals, very physical, very noticeable, that is like, it's time to sit, it's time to recharge, or it's time to accept and see if something that I like is gonna play. And that's okay too.
Yeah, for me, when I get to that point, it's time for me to leave
No,
because it's more like if I got to the 20%, that means it's been going down very fast. Because I can normally like stay above the 50%. You know, if I get close to 50%, I'll have a break, I'll have a chat, and then I'll come back when I'm 70 or 80. So I kind of like try to manage my battery 50, 70, 50, 70. If I got to 30, 20, 10, there's just no way back up. I'm just waiting for me to get to the bottom. And then I'll go like, okay, I'm either not dancing anymore because I've just like had enough on that night, and I'll hang out and chat with people and be there, or I'll just go like, I need to go home.
Yeah.
I need to go home. It's
Yeah.
tough because sometimes this happens too early in the evening or too early at a social. And
that's
it's
tough.
because I wanted to dance more. But like one of the 4 things didn't work out in that night. And sometimes the 4 things didn't work out. I wasn't feeling great going to the social already, maybe because I was already tired. And then the music just wasn't vibing. The place wasn't vibing. I was dancing with people that weren't vibing with me. And then it's kind of like playing games on your phone. The battery goes down really fast.
It depletes. Like you're using the camera too long and then the battery completely disappears.
Exactly. So we need to be efficient by balancing all the things.
Yeah. And as we were talking about this, there is something that can also be affecting the experience of enjoying the music. As a result of my observations, I have been seeing a lot more people using earplugs while social dancing.
Yeah.
And I've been noticing that some DJs put the volume really up. They turn it up so much. And there was something that at a recent event that I found amazing, very unique. The DJs had a decibels measurement thing on the table. They kept it at 80 or something, 80 something, which for me is really interesting. Is like 2 things. You want the volume to be up, but then people put the earplug. So what is the point of you cranking the volume so much? So I think that for me, that affects my experience quite a lot, especially lately. As I approach my 67 years old, I start to feel more that when the volume is too loud, I start to feel a little bit more disturbed. It's almost like there is nowhere in the room that I can find some sort of calm because it's punching too much. And this can be one of those silent influences. Like we said, that there's a silent influence of how you are, the silent influence of maybe the repetition. And I think there's a silent influence of the volume too. One of those things that might not even cross our minds at first, but can be an aspect that can influence your experience. No? I think, at least, because it does influence mine quite a lot, especially if my battery is running low. Whoop, then it's the deal breaker. That's when I leave.
I think the best is to have multiple speakers in the room.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think like 4 speakers, perfect. 1 on each corner, and all of the speakers can play really low because it fills the room. Unfortunately, a lot of the times in the socials and even big events, which I don't know, I can't believe it, but they'll put like 2 or 4 speakers right at the front and then blast. So yeah, it's too loud at the front, too quiet on the back, makes no sense. So, fill up the room with multiple speakers and make sure that the DJ is not going past a certain level. As a DJ in my events, I always tell all of the DJs, please, if you hear the music too loud or too soft, go and tell the DJ, attendees, organizers, teachers, If there's anything, please go and tell the DJ. Sometimes the DJ may not realize. Maybe
Yeah.
they're thinking about the next thing and the next thing, and then one of the songs, I don't know, something happened and it was too loud. Or maybe
Yeah.
they've been too loud for too long. We have to tell them as an attendee, all of us, we have to be able to give feedback. That's something that I just wanted to point out, because we've been talking about learn how to be better, learn how to do better. But we're not saying that the feedback is not valid. What we're trying to approach here is like, when you're in a situation, how to deal with it. But of course, giving feedback is very important. Giving feedback, maybe not to the DJ directly when they're playing, because
Not when
I
they're
don't
playing.
like to bother the DJs when
Yes.
they're playing, but maybe to the organizer, and the organizer will make a call whether they should tell the DJ at that moment or not. Because as an organizer, I'll go and tell the DJ if I think it's something that needs to be done right now. Like volume is so easy, boom, turn it down a little bit. But if it's music choice, then I'll talk to them later. We do better tomorrow.
Yeah, because there's a whole process to being there. DJing is immersive, and if you get there and then you ask them something, man, you can throw. Yeah, it's almost like you are teaching a class and somebody comes to your ear and like it throws you off. Né? There is a potential of throwing you off severely. Né?
Oh, bro.
So,
Tell me
we
about
know.
it. My distracted brain.
Yes. You just go. Yeah. Because in the end of the day, there are internal factors and external factors.
Yeah.
I think at first we talk about the internal factors, the things that you can do. And now I think we are now talking about the external factors, the things that you don't have agency. And like you cannot choose the song, or you cannot choose the volume, or you cannot place the speakers. This is like something that you cannot have influence on as a participant.
Providing you've done the first part of the episode, you've done the work of the first part of the episode. Now let's talk about the other.
Exactly. You did this thing here. Exactly. There was one other aspect that I wanted to mention is we have been around DJs a lot. Yeah. We have DJs who are friends. We have DJs who we talk often. And it's really interesting that there is at times this mindset around what music to play, where I have heard and I have been part of conversations where there was a resistance to play the anthems. I don't know if you ever was a part of this conversation. And some of the points were because someone else is going to play. That's one. And the other point was we need to introduce people to new things. So these were like two of the points that were brought up in. It was just not one conversation. It was several conversations over the course of time, including, I think, Alisson, you and me had a conversation with one DJ here in DC about the same topic. And I think now, talking as a participant, because we are not DJs, at least not yet. I don't know if I'll ever be, because one more work and there's too much. But as a participant, the anthem, the really classic stuff, and I'm not talking about traditional music specifically. I'm talking about a song that for a while was something that moves people. Yeah? An anthem, it has the most powerful power of them all, which is the power of nostalgia, which is the power that people in food want to reach so much. That is the power that when people taste something familiar, smell something familiar, smell their grandmother's food, smell their parents' food, that power of awakening that really tender, that really beautiful part of your story, learning how to dance. That music is part of my story, learning how to dance. And then you play that song. It's so amazing what it can do. I have had the experience in Brazil of when an anthem came in, people like screamed and very loudly and like expressed gratitude to the DJ. So as a participant, hearing the anthems really brings life back to my body. It's almost like my battery is 20%. It goes up to 40. immediately. Just it's like this crazy boost, just like a supercharger that Apple still doesn't have. Yeah. So you like it brings back up very quickly. So I think that that has the potential of improving the experience of people on the floor. What do you think?
That's something that I actually instruct, or I should say, I ask of the DJs that I ever work with in the events that are organized. I used to DJ between 2007 to about 2017, so about 10 years, when there were no DJs. You know, teachers had to DJ because, I mean, that was just the way it was. And then when a lot of DJs came up, I just decided to stop and focus on other things. But something that I always took upon myself, and I tell all the DJs that I work with, is the 3 E's: educate, excite, and expose. So educate while you're playing by playing music that people should know. The anthems, the songs that have built this dance over the last 30, 40 years plus. So play some of that. Excite. Play some music that you know people love it. It's just a trend. Everybody's playing, everybody's listening to. Excite them. Give them the sugar. And then explore. Explore is where you can play things that are outside of those two. Maybe something that you've been vibing, or some music that you think it's kind of zoukable, but not a lot of people use. So you have that space. So as a DJ, you can serve all the dishes. You don't have to think, oh, you know, like I'm just going to play traditional because the organizer is going to feel upset. Or I'm just going to have to play remix because all of the people at this event just want to remix. Now, to me, I think every DJ should follow those 3 E's: educate, excite, explore. And you can make your own formula. You can even make more of them, because then we are educating the community to be able to dance to anything, to pretty much anything, and to have fun at anything. Even in our classes, we make sure that sometimes we play the traditional, sometimes we play the remixes, sometimes we play some alternative stuff, depending on the level of the class. When I go and do weekenders, I'll do, let's say, weekenders or festivals, I'll do 3 or 4 demos. Each demo, the songs must be completely different to show the people like a different way of dancing, a different version of Brazilian Zouk that we can also do and have fun. And it's good enough to be in a demo. Because when I'm teaching this to students, a lot of the times they say, oh, you know, but people don't really dance that. And I'm like, what? They don't dance like this, or they don't? No, you know, like when you see on Instagram, that's not what you see. I'm like, but bro, Instagram is like drug. You know, it's just high intensity caffeine and high sugar levels to make you go crazy. But when you go to the social, that's not what people do, you know, like not all night. So yeah, I think it's a discussion that has been going on forever. Is
Forever.
like, is it the teacher's fault, the dancer's fault, or the DJ's fault? Whose fault is it? Whether the music is good or bad. DJs will blame the teachers, because the DJs will say, I'm not generalizing here, but from decades of discussing these in congresses rooms and all of those things, DJs will say, well, you know, we play the music that people want, and people want it because the teachers play in the classes. And then the teachers will say, well, we're playing music that people love to social dance to, so we play them in the classes because the DJs played. And then both sides are like, well, we're playing music that people want because people asked us to play.
Yeah.
So it's everybody's fault.
Yes. It's a loop. It's a self-feeding mechanism there. I play because you play, and you play because I play, and it's the whole thing.
And we play because they want it.
Exactly. It's like, oh, they're asking for this thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I think in the end of the day, it's balance. I think at the end of the day, it's balance. It's finding that balance again, like you say, né? Expose people to what is classic, give them the thing that is up, and explore a little bit. That's, for me, is the summarizing of variety. They are giving people a little bit of everything. And so they have everything. I remember this is a discussion that is very old. I remember having this discussion like 5 years ago with an
Oh yeah.
organizer in Europe where
Mhm.
he was thinking about putting the description of his event, the percentage of time that they would have each style of music. So be it 20% traditional, 40% this much. Because the discussion back then was so big, people were getting so, oh my God, about it that some organizers were actually thinking about giving an actual percentage of how much of each kind of music was going to be played at that event. So in the end, variety is like teaching and saying the same thing in five different ways. So like all the people in class can catch at least one of those ways. And I see the same thing is playing several different things. So most people in that room can enjoy. And I think the variety, and I said this in my experience and talking to some friends, the variety allows you as a participant, you as a dancer, to experience all these different styles within a same flow, within a same build. So you get out of one into the other, and it actually feels nice and it actually feels cohesive. And then you find the joy in music that you didn't find before. And I think that's the power that the DJ can have. The DJ can have the power of like really showing someone how cool that song that they used to not like, that they didn't like before, how cool it can be inside of a flow. Because I have heard this before too. People saying, I like the DJs that tell a story or they take me on a journey. And I had a hard time understanding what that meant until very recently, actually, when I started paying more attention to this build, how the DJ is building. And then I started to pay attention in the transitions. Then I started to pay attention in how I felt coming out of one style into the other and how smooth everything felt, how slow they build up the BPM, how slow they build down the BPM. So all of that started to make more sense to me. So as a social dancer, variety is what keeps me going much more with much more joy, you know?
Some DJs are really like magical masseuses.
Mhm.
You know, that massage that starts kind of gentle and nice, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, that I need that. And then suddenly gets really hard and heavy, and you go like, whoa, okay, yeah. Whoa, that's good too. That's good too. I enjoy that. And then suddenly they just go and change vibes and change energy and flip you around and then put you upside down. And some DJs are just like really, really, really good at that. That
Mhm.
you don't even realize it. And you've been dancing for an hour, dancing with different people, and still like keeping that high energy. And I'm not talking about like pumping electronic music high energy. I'm talking more about like high emotional battery
Yeah.
throughout the hour instead of like losing battery and depleting. Yeah, bro. Like there's a lot of DJs who can do that depending on where you go and what events you go to and what cities you go to. But there are a lot of magicians out there that I know that if they are playing, very, very high chance that, you know, it's going to be a good night.
Yeah. Very studious professionals that like really work on their craft. And that shows so much.
Hmm.
So in the end of the day, I think our experience of the music on the floor can vary so much between me and my friend right next to me, depending
Yeah.
on these factors that are internal and the
Hmm.
factors that are not under our control. And I think the awareness of them can be very soothing, in the sense of there's less blaming. It's like, oh, this social was not good. No, 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 no. And you understand this social was not good because maybe I was not in a good moment, so I could not enjoy as much. So right before the judgment of the social or the event, it comes maybe as like a follow-up thought, maybe the awareness of what could be the possible reasons that took you to not like it. Yeah. And then be fine with it, just be fine with it. Or work your way to maybe have a better experience next time. If a social was very heavy on R&B and it didn't train your body to
Yeah.
express yourself in R&B, it's an indication. Man, let me play some R&B. Let me get an R&B playlist here. Get a practice partner and just dance to R&B. Watch the R&B people dancing to R&B. See what they do. Get some references, and then just build that vocabulary of movement inside of what you already know. Yeah.
And if that's not something that you want to do, just understand that when the DJ is doing that, you're just going to have a break and have some water and then come back later. I mean, like,
Yeah,
if
that's
you
fine.
are the kind of person who wants to dance all night, don't put that responsibility on the DJ or the organizer. Put that responsibility on yourself to be versatile enough to dance to anything. But if not, that's okay too. Just understand that there are moments, or there may be complete socials that you may not be able to understand, but that's a choice that you can make.
Exactly. Exactly. And I can think of so many times that I went out so excited to dance and I got to the social and it was all dark and it was super loud and it was makam the whole time. So out of the four elements, music and space were really off. Yeah. I only relied on two elements, me and my partner. Yeah. And then because these two elements were off, the me started to get off too. So even dancing with amazing followers, because there were amazing followers in those socials, I could not enjoy. I couldn't. So there are like all these things, is a complex web of things for us to keep in mind, as we go through this experience of social dancing. I mean, in your city, in your place, in your country, or all over the world if you travel.
Absolutely. And remember, everything's about balance. I think it's kind of the holy grail of life.
It is
balance
life.
in anything. And we are about to balance ourselves into a beautiful evening here.
Mhm.
And we'll see you on the next episode, guys. So thank you so much for being here with us today. Hopefully this was helpful and you learned something. Keep in touch with us in our social medias. And we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Beijos, beijos. Abraços. Tchau.